Welcome back to the channel. This is part 6 in our series on Flask to AWS. In this video, we're going to be creating all the necessary ECS components, the task, the service, and the cluster, which we went through in the previous video in the diagrams, and also the application load balancer. We're going to finally understand what that is and how to create it. Before we get started, you can help me out a lot by doing a few simple things. Sponsor me on either Patreon or GitHub sponsors, subscribing to the channel, liking this video and sharing on platforms you use like Reddit or Discord, starting the repo on GitHub, and also follow me on GitHub. All these things help me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is create the task definition. So we go to ECS at the top in the management console, Elastic Container Service. Click on task definitions on the left, create a new task definition. We're doing EC2. Next, name, AWS ECS demo task definition, task role. I'm going to select this one. If you don't have one created already, you can click create new. It'll automatically create this one for you. Network mode, we're going to leave it as default. Execution role, same one as above. We're not going to touch these. Add a container. Now we're going to connect to the ECR repository. So we can duplicate this tab. Search for Elastic Container Registry. Copy the name, paste it up here, copy the URI, paste it right here. Do a soft limit, 128, port mappings 0 to 5000. So why are we doing this? 5000, because the container port has a Flask app running, and the Flask app is going to be running on port 5000. Host port is 0. Why? Because the 0 is basically a wildcard. The application load balancer is going to be our incoming port and has dynamic port mappings. I mean, it doesn't have a static port we can set here, so we have to set it to 0. Scroll down, don't have to do anything else, and click add. Great, scroll down, nothing to do, create. Great, we got our task definition. Next thing we can do is create the cluster. So we're going to go to clusters on the left, create cluster. EC2 Linux plus networking. Next step, pick the name, AWS ECS demo cluster. Do on demand. Instance type, number of instances is 1, Linux AMI, 30 gig. Key pair, we want to have a key pair. Why is this? So we can SSH into our EC2 instance, running our Docker container, so we can debug it if necessary, if there's issues. This is very important. Later on, we have a more complex app. So let's create that key pair. Click the link right here. Create key pair on the top. Call it AWS ECS demo key pair. I'm going to use PPK for PuTTY because that's what I'm familiar with. Create key pair. Great, and it downloads it up here so you have it saved. Make sure you save this somewhere and make sure you save it securely. You do not want this exposed to someone malicious. Close this, refresh. Now we can select it. Great, keep going. VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. What does this do? It isolates the components inside of the VPC from every other component on AWS. We want this because we want isolation of our resources, because we don't want one web app to automatically be able to talk to another web app. We want them isolated. Why? Let's say one web app has a security vulnerability and it gets infected by a malicious actor. Do you want that malicious actor to be able to affect all of your websites or be isolated to that one singular website? Obviously, you want them to be isolated. This virtual private cloud helps ensure that. So let's create a new VPC, 10.0, where this is a private IP address. We'll do our 2 subnets, and we're going to create a new security group. We'll expand this later on in the video series. ECS instance role, this is by default. Create. Okay, the cluster is finished completing. Click View Cluster. And we see it here, it's active. Now we're going to create the service. We're already right here, so we can click Create. EC2. Service name, AWS ECS demo service. Number of tasks, we're just going to do 1. This minimum healthy percent is 100%. The maximum percent is 200%. What does this mean? 100% means we're running 1 task. 200% means we're running 2 tasks. Why do we need 200% as the maximum? Because when we have our old code running and we want to push a change, we're going to have 2 tasks running at the same time. The old one running and servicing a request, and the new one spinning up. Once that new one is fully spin up, we're at 200% at a moment. Then the old one is going to start deregistering. That's where we have the maximum percent at 200% and the minimum at 100%. Because if we don't have any task running, there's an error. It's automatically going to start to restart the task. So we need to have at least one task running equal to 100%. That's where the minimum is 100. Keep going. Next step. We're going to do an application load balancer. We haven't created one yet, so we're going to do that right now. Now we're actually creating the application load balancer. What is the application load balancer doing exactly? It's taking requests from the end user and sending them to our EC2 instance. So if we have a large amount of traffic coming in, if we have more than one EC2 instance running, then the application load balancer can distribute the traffic across multiple EC2 instances. So we can horizontally scale our application to handle a greater load. In our simple example here though, we're only using one EC2 instance. So we're going to create the application load balancer. Load balancer name, AWS ECS demo load balancer. Internet facing, VPC. We'll select the VPC we just created. How can we double check that? Let's go to the console, type EC2. Go to instances on the left. Select our instance. Scroll down. You see this VPC right here, ending in D09. Go back, D09, exactly what we want. We're going to click our two mappings for both subnets. Great. Security groups 350. It's not what we want. We want the one for the EC2 container. Ending in E98. Let's double check that. Scroll up. Security E98. Same security group. Perfect. Scroll down. Now, we need to create a target group. We haven't created that yet. So you have to create a target group. Now, what does a target group do exactly? The target group tells the application load balancer where to direct its traffic. So the application load balancer doesn't automatically talk to the EC2 instance. It talks to the target group, which tells it to send its traffic to the EC2 instance. So we're going to create instances because we're running EC2 instances. I'm going to call it AWS ECS demo target group. We'll do on port 5000 because our container is running on port 5000 for Flask. The VPC, just like the D09, same as before. And click next. Click our instance, include as pending. Create target group. Great, we see it running. Pull this up. You see it's registering the targets right now. Go back to load balancers, refresh, select our target group, create load balancer. View load balancer. Great, we have our load balancer. It's still provisioning. Go back here, refresh. We have our load balancer, add to load balancer, 80, and ECS demo target group. Great, next step, create service. Okay, the service is created. View service. Now we're going to give it a little bit, but we're going to see a running task here, and we're going to see it's active in a little bit. Great, here's our task definition. Last task, it's running, green, so we know we're all good to go. Okay, that's it for this video on ECS. In the next video, we're going to configure the security group for our ECS components. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below, and I'll respond as quickly as I can. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.